New Texas law took effect this week aiming to protect children from harmful online content. But only a portion of the law is enforceable right now because Friday, a federal judge temporarily blocked part of the social media law while a lawsuit makes its way through the system. Here to break it down for us is Pooja Salhotra with the Texas Tribune. Thank you so much for being here, Pooja.
Thanks for having me on.
So this law basically has two major components. Can you break down those components for us and then let us know the issue that the federal judge had with one of the components?
Sure, yeah. So this law basically requires digital service providers, which includes social media companies like Meta and Google. It requires them to verify the age of users whenever they try to create an account. And then those who are under 18, there are certain restrictions that would be placed upon them. And one of those things is that the original form of the law that was passed would have required companies to basically filter out content that is quote unquote harmful. So things that promote self-harm or substance abuse, and basically prevent those materials from being displayed on minors' accounts on their feeds. And that is the piece that the judge had an issue with. He said that that would likely be considered unconstitutional because it is prohibiting, certain free speech rights that exist within the First Amendment. So that is currently temporarily on hold. That was just a temporary ruling as this law continues to go through the court system. But that did basically stop the state from enforcing that piece of the law.
And you mentioned going through the court system. That's because there's a lawsuit filed. That's what that decision was came about from. But there's also another lawsuit. So tell us the parties that are suing, challenging this new Texas law, and what their beef is with it.
Yeah, so one of the lawsuits, the one that the judge had made that initial ruling on, is filed by two industry groups, the Computer and Communications Industry Association and Net Choice. These are both basically trade groups that represent some of the bigger tech companies like X and Google and Meta. And the second lawsuit comes from a free speech advocacy group, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. And while they're representing different parties, they are kind of making similar arguments here that the law is kind of overbroad and too far-reaching and infringing upon First Amendment rights that have to do with free speech.
I see from your reporting that you've reached out to some of the big social media sites such as Facebook and Instagram. It doesn't look like you've had much luck getting in contact with them to ask them how they plan to be enforcing the portion of the law that is now in effect.
I did actually hear back from Meta, which is the company that is Facebook and Instagram are part of Meta. So they're two of the biggest social media companies, and they did explain that part of the law was allowing parents to have these tools to monitor their kids' social media accounts. So basically, parents of teenagers who have a Facebook account, the parent is now able to, if they go online and they verify that they are this minor's parent, they can actually control a lot of their kid's account. They can control how much time their kid spends on the account. They can decide whether or not they want their child to be able to make financial transactions on the account. And they can even actually delete the account, is what Facebook is telling me. And so I did hear back from them. I didn't hear back from some of the other ones like TikTok or Snap, but Meta is definitely one of the larger ones. A lot of kids are on Instagram. So that is how they plan to deal with the new law.
And finally, I wanted to ask you, it looks like a lot of other states might be watching closely to see how this Texas law fares with these lawsuits, because they're kind of considering similar measures, right?
Yeah, so this is really happening across the country. There's now like a patchwork of laws that are kind of similar to this, or that attempt to do various things to control what types of materials kids can access online. Most of them have had legal challenges. So Texas's is actually one of the earlier ones to go into effect. Utah has one that would be going into effect next month. And then other states similarly have laws that are still kind of going through the court system. So it is going to be interesting to see how the judge makes a final ruling on these two lawsuits and whether or not it's going to be able to be enforced.
And you can find Pooja's full report on texastribune.org. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me on.